everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Draft Show with Fran Duffy in what will be the conclusion of our 2025 season. We'll see what happens next year. But Fran, you have put this year's draft class to bed. We're going to talk all about the 2026 class and how you go about turning the page. But how you doing? Have you put it all behind you?
No, the part of what happens in like May and June for me is like kind of tying the ribbon on the previous draft, and it's more just like kind of collecting my thoughts. I do so much work on the.
Oh, I know you do a lot of work.
The tendencies. Well, you don't even so much in terms of the tendencies of each team.
Yes.
So I don't want to quickly breeze through and just jump right into next year's class. A lot of what happens in the next few weeks is kind of going team by team and not just looking at like what they did, but the tendencies of the players that they selected, the information I collected over the course of the spring, how much of that turned to be fruitful, how much of that was people leading me astray, just kind of looking team by team, and that does take a little bit of time.
Yeah, how much do you vet your sources looking back?
I keep every receipt. Yeah, I keep every receipt. Because look, and so,
doesn't mean that they were leading you astray on purpose necessarily.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So I kind of keep a track record. Hey, you know what? Like this person has pretty good info when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, but maybe when I talk to them about the Atlanta Falcons, not so much. So
feels like a very specific example that you're giving.
I literally just went like the first two teams alphabetical. And I am going alphabetical on this. So that goes hand in hand with rewatching all of the press conferences, watching the behind-the-scenes videos, reading the behind-the-scenes articles. As much content as I could take in from all 32 teams. That's what happens over these next few weeks.
All right, you have your first 2026 mock draft on all PHLY or any other all city channels where you are a diehard. You can check that out. You have done 5 guys. From this class so far. So we're going to talk about that. I want to ask you a big picture about the quarterback class and sort of big takeaways. But before we get to the nitty gritty of the players, I do want to talk a little process here for you. So what goes into you turning the page to 2026? What are you doing right now for next year's draft class?
So I have a number of sheets that I work through over the course of the entire year. Very like workable documents when it comes to not just like my notes on players, but then also like anytime I've got a number. Let's say it's a 40-yard dash time, or maybe it's a drop rate for a wide receiver, a pass rush win rate for a pass rusher, whatever it is. I've got a number of metrics that I track, and I always refer to the 10-year sample. I'll refer back, hey, this is where this tallies compared to all pass rushers drafted in the last decade. Well, it takes time to kind of get all that data and contextualize it, right? So that's what happens now over these next several weeks, is that it's going to be a lot of, all right, every player that got drafted at every single position, all of those data points that I track, let me make sure that goes into next year's sheet and just trying to get that ready. So I'm working on that.
I'm going to do something I've never done before.
Okay.
I'm going to lean back in this chair, get a little relaxed. My back is hurting a little bit, so I'm just going to, this way I can really listen to you.
I like this. It's the new you.
It's the new me.
I don't like leaning back in these chairs.
Neither do I. I prefer to get to the front, but I got a little crick in there.
Got to work it out.
Too much bending over for the baby. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, the other big one is obviously, jumping ahead into next year's class. And so honestly, it's like, all right, I wake up one morning and it's, what do I feel like doing? Do I feel like doing some guys for next year? Do I feel like getting into some statistical stuff? Do I feel like looking back at last year's class? Since there's no deadlines, it's just kind of follow where the wind takes me. But I have jumped ahead into a few players for next year. But that's been a fun process.
In the past, we have talked about by the time the draft comes, you have reached I just want to be done with this draft class, and it wasn't like that for you this year because you were still playing a little bit of catch up. Generally speaking, the turning of the page, it's thematic. It's spring. This is rebirth. Do you get excited about having a whole new crop of guys to learn about and unearth?
Honestly, the watching players in the summer is my favorite time to watch players.
Fun.
Yeah, because the narratives haven't been built on players for the most part. I mean, really, the only thing that's out there on guys is these too early mock drafts, and what our feelings are on players, just based off the college football season. But watching players in the summer before there's a widespread narrative, that's definitely my favorite part.
It is also. It must be fun because it's then informing at such a different level when you're just watching on TV college football on Sundays. You're like, oh, I have done this guy, and even if it's the TV copy, I'm seeing him do something that I was hoping to see him do, or I didn't know that he could do, that must be a nice extra layer as well.
It absolutely is. And it can go the other way as well. I don't take enjoyment from seeing everyone had this guy as a top 10 pick in mock drafts. And I'm I don't quite see it. And you kind of see it play out and you're like, okay, I feel validated from that standpoint.
Now, did you do, just for your own purposes, like way too early mock drafts in the past, or was this one the first one you've done?
This was the first one I've ever done.
Okay, so you can't really look back and say I did well or didn't do well here.
Yeah, I think actually there have been years where I've done, basically Ben Fennell and I, when we worked together with the Eagles, we would say all right, it would be like May or June. We're like, all right, let's just do one. But I didn't. It was not an every year occurrence. I'd have to look back and see some of the ones I've done in the past.
And so one thing I'm curious about, how did you go about doing the draft order? Did you just go off Super Bowl odds?
Super Bowl odds.
I think you got to go for a little bit of a, drum up some outrage.
Right.
And do some stuff on your own. Make the Colts have the number 1 overall pick or something. But more of a fan base that you could easily rile up.
Well, that's the thing is that in some of these mock drafts that happen and I've only looked at a handful just from from people I'm friends with, is the idea of look, the number 1 pick next year, they just took a quarterback, so I'm just gonna have somebody trade up. I can't do trades for a too early 2026 mock. So I didn't have any quarterbacks going in the top 2 of this mock that I did, but this quarterback class should be a little bit more fun.
Okay, let's get into that then,
because
this year obviously we spent so much time in this draft, and downplaying the quality of the class in general. What is the way too early vibe check on how strong next year's draft class is going to be?
Yeah,
because it is also all of this extra year of COVID guys have gone, right? So now we're back to what is sort of like the new normal of NIL parity, right?
Yes, and so I still think we'll have plenty of players going back to school, and so it should be a thinner class than what we expected, 3, 4, 5 years ago from that standpoint.
This one, and then maybe 1 or 2 more years, and then it will be fully filled out.
Yeah, I think then we'll start to see that it starts to level out that way. But I would say more excitement about this quarterback class going into the summer than certainly last year's. Now, will that play out in terms of players getting drafted in the first round a year from now? That remains to be seen. But I've got a little bit more juice from a volume standpoint. There's more excitement for Arch Manning, LaNorris Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier. You go down to Cade Klubnik, Drew Allar. There's more names to kind of comb through. And so I think I had 5 or 6 quarterbacks going in that mock draft. And again, I have not, the only player, when I did that mock draft, the only player that I had done a deep dive on was Nussmeier, because there was a chance that he was going to come out last year. So I did his.
And you were helping out Zach, who wrote a story on.
Of course. Nussmeier. So that was part of it as well. But I was genuinely excited to watch him. And I liked what I saw. This was a guy that to me, looked like he had top 5 pick quality play, and finishing up. We'll get into it, but
let's get into it now. Why? What do you see that makes him look like that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I see Nussmeier,
this is the LSU quarterback.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody doesn't know,
LSU quarterback took over for Jaden Daniels, was the backup to Jaden Daniels the previous 2 years. So stepped right in. You saw flashes of playing time, but was not the starter until this past year. The first start actually of his career was Jaden Daniels opted out of the bowl game, so he started that game.
Okay.
He won MVP of the bowl game. And so then he comes back for last year. And this is a guy that's got toughness in the pocket, the pocket mobility. He looked like a vet playing, early on in his career last year. But then also, I mean, the willingness to attack all 3 levels. He's very aggressive. He's willing to push the limits with tight window throws. And the touch was outstanding. The accuracy really showed up. He's not like a wow physical talent. I would say it's better. He's got more physical talent than Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, the guys that we were talking about, in that second tier in this past class.
Now, when you say that, are you talking about athletically or arm strength?
Athletically and velocity as a thrower. I think that the overall arm talent is pretty good. He's got the ability to throw a fastball and a changeup. The anticipation I thought was pretty strong. He just had some games late in the year where that was a tough interception to throw late in the middle of the field in crunch time, right? And so I was glad to see him go back. I'm excited for what he can be. I remember when I was finishing up my study, this is back in the fall, I watched 3 games in October of last year, and Dane Brugler and I were texting back and forth, and he was Flex. He came up with this comp, so I'm not taking credit for it. He kind of reminds me of Tony Romo.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, and I was like, Dane, you're exactly right. Now, his dad is the longtime quarterbacks coach, spent some time in Dallas, and it stands to reason maybe that was a player that he kind of emulated a little bit, but he does have some Romo-ish kind of qualities there. I like Garrett Nussmeier. Like, to me, he looks like a future top 5 quality pick.
So the book on Nussmeier is that one day he will become a great broadcaster early and then just sort of not get better.
Zach might have a little bit more insight into his future plans there, post-playing career, having done the piece.
He was like one of the few guys in college football last year who I paid a lot of attention to because Zach was doing that story, and obviously his dad was on the Eagles staff. And you could tell just from watching then, like, comfort in the pocket.
Yeah.
To me, you tell me if you disagree, I'm not so sure that that's a thing that just gets a lot better. It's like you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And it looked like he was very comfortable moving around in the pocket in those tight spaces, keeping his eyes downfield.
Yeah, with guys bearing down, he'll deliver a throw, eyes down the field, very comfortable navigating a pocket. This was another thing as well. He's only started he started 14 games. He's already got 3 fourth quarter comebacks coming into this year. I mean, there's like an unflappability about him that is as impressive for a inexperienced player.
So let's think big picture. If you're evaluating a quarterback, knowing that there's at least another full season to come, what are the things that, like, you want to know you either have it or you don't, and what are the things where you believe that this can improve?
Yeah, I think optimism reigns supreme in the summer. That's one of the other reasons why I like watching. It's like, all right, like you're kind of betting on the come a little bit, and you say, like, all right, he can get better here. But what you want to see, like, just prerequisites, is like, all right, like, arm talent, is that there? Check. Then you start getting into things like what's coachable and what's not. To your point, like, I want to see the comfort in the pocket, the ability to operate with bodies around you. Ball placement and touch is pretty important. I want to be able to see, like, all right, do you have that ability to be able to hit receivers in stride? Decision making can improve, right? Like the sack avoidance, like, that's something that can get a little bit better. That's something that he really excelled at.
And there's data that suggests that interceptions are actually a good thing early on for a quarterback, because it proves that they're willing to make the tough throws.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that stood out to me, and we'll get into another player as well at that position, where it's like, like, he's willing to push the limits there. And especially, like, not even just, like, he's rolling out of the pocket and he just kind of chucked it up. It's it's 3rd and long, step up into the teeth of the rush and deliver an in-breaking route over the middle of the field. Like, he's willing to make those kinds of throws.
Okay, so that's Nussmeier. Now let's talk about the guy who I think even the casuals know, and this is like the guy that everybody knows, and he's not even in your mock draft because he probably won't come out next year, but there's a possibility that he will. He's one of the 5 guys you've done. Tell us about Arch Manning.
So, I didn't put him in the mock. Number one, it was kind of like an easy to be like, all right, I can squeeze one more player into the mock, because I genuinely don't think he's going to come out. I think that it stands to reason when you look at the history of the Manning family, and this has been talked about elsewhere, so it's not like riveting analysis, but I think that when you're looking at Arch Manning, you look at Peyton, you look at Eli, those guys stayed in school longer than people anticipated. I think Manning, he's going to be a redshirt sophomore. He is eligible, but he's got 2 starts under his belt. Yeah. I don't think he's going to come into now. He could play 16 games this year, whether with the college football playoff, the extended regular season, and maybe 18 starts is enough. My gut tells me he wants to be like at least a 2-year starter. That's my gut. And Dane put it best, was that the one thing that could lure him out would be if his hometown New Orleans Saints had the number 1 pick, where his grandfather was the last first-round quarterback by the Saints. Like, being able to live into that, like, that could be fun. But also, like, I kind of think that, these Mannings too, like, they all haven't followed the same path. Eli went to Ole Miss, didn't go to Tennessee. All those guys, have kind of charted their own course. So my gut tells me he will stay in school for the 2026 season as well. Okay,
so he had those 2 starts from last year. You crunched the film on those. What did you see?
Yeah, I watched all redshirt freshman. 233 snaps from last year. He's awesome. He is so good. I'm a big fan of Steve Sarkisian's offense in general, just in terms of, like, philosophically what they do. I think that they do a lot to help the quarterback, and just that it's a very efficient pass game. So it's a lot of screen and RPOs, like, all right, quick rhythm throws. So what can you do on top of that? That was one of the knocks that I had on Quinn Ewers, was that, like, he will execute all of that, but then, like, what else can you do? he's going to push the limits down the field. When like the timing and rhythm for a lot of their vertical concepts that he showed as a backup, like, because a lot of times you see a backup come in and it's like, all right, we're going to go out, like, just go execute the scheme. And it's like, get the ball out fast. It was one of the first plays in his first start against Louisiana Monroe. It's a play action boot, roll out to the right. And it's like, all right, like, yeah, flat's open, like, throw the flat. He holds on to it. And he's like, yeah, I know I've got the deep crosser coming from the backside. He gets his eyes back to the middle of the field and throws the deep crosser for like an 18-yard completion in the first down. It's like, oh yeah. Like,
look at the smile on your face right now.
He's really, really talented. And just the, I mean, they ran numerous like vertical big play, like the downfield concepts where, yeah, like, you could see what the upside is going to be with this offense next year with him at the helm versus Quinn Ewers, who like did a nice job executing that offense. But I think it goes to another level with Arch.
You think they should have made the switch? You think they should have let him be the guy?
I get honestly, like when I posted a couple clips of Arch on social media yesterday, and that was some of the blowback was like, all right, well, if he's so good, like how come they just didn't? They did. We see that all the time in college football, though. Like there are so many instances, especially a quarterback, where it's like, yeah, like, oh, we have a vet already.
Yeah,
he's going to be the guy.
Scared money don't make money.
Yeah, like like Tyler Palko got reps over Joe Flacco. Like there are like endless examples.
Poor Tyler Palko taking a stray. Just watching draft coverage.
Tyler, hello. Good
to see you.
Thanks for watching.
So Louisiana Monroe. Who was the other game?
Mississippi State.
Okay, so jumping competition.
Yep. So and there were instances where Ewers like had to bow out of the game because of injury, or there were times where they just like kind of mixed Manning in at times as well, or maybe they were blowing an opponent out. So there were like drives here and there where you got the chance to see him. And again, like the ability you talk about, like the ability to like operate in a pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's there.
Okay.
He's making throws with defenders coming at him. The poise really, really flashed. The arm talent is outstanding.
Okay.
He's a great athlete. He had like two 50-plus yard runs last year where he like takes off and makes plays down the sideline. It's really, really
so
impressive.
Peyton Manning, but athletic is the book on him.
Sure,
so far.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like all the reasons people get excited about like Justin Herbert and like Trevor Lawrence. Like you think like of like those guys like coming out of school and in the NFL where like the film bros like get all excited about those guys.
Mm-hmm.
He is all of that with the great athleticism,
plus that boy nice,
with the pedigree. There's a lot to be excited about. He honestly like he is going to play like a Heisman frontrunner this year. Like I think he's going to post numbers and like look excellent. From a film standpoint, like projecting forward, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about it.
How are his comedic chops?
I don't know yet. I'm excited. Yeah, well, I don't know if he's quite to Peyton and Eli's standard there.
Well, that's good to know. Something to work on.
Yeah.
It's the summer. You got to bet on the come.
I would say like the areas where I do want to see him improve, overall sack avoidance. There were some times where he was like locked onto that primary read, like he was waiting for it to open up, where it was like, all right, like so just like eliminate faster so that you don't get the rush to get there. There were times where like you could see him go like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, but a little bit too often where he held on to it and took some sacks there. All the pre-snap direction did come from the sideline this year. My guess is now as the guy, he'll have a little bit more pre-snap authority. There were times where like the accuracy, like he got a little bit too rushed and the ball placement suffered. But again, like outside of that, these are things where I'm really excited for what he's going to look like.
Okay, the rest of the top of the quarterback class, guys who you haven't done your full deep dive on yet, but you have just sort of, watched a little bit and gotten a feel for them. LaNorris Sellers from South Carolina, Drew Allar from Penn State, and Cade Klubnik from Clemson. What's the book on those guys? Who is the most interesting to you?
Yeah, Sellers.
Because you've got them all in your top 10.
Yes. So Sellers is a guy, all the South Carolina guys that I talked to this offseason raved about him. He was the first freshman captain in school history. The physical talent pops off. He's a redshirt freshman this past year, but athleticism, physical, like arm talent, like velocity, the ability to kind of put it wherever he needs it. Really, really impressive. So I'm excited to do the deep dive into LaNorris Sellers. Obviously, like kind of carried into the brink of the playoff. They had some losses early on that it just proved to be too much for them to overcome, but a lot of people felt like they should have been in the playoff over like SMU or some of those teams that kind of sneaked in there in the back end. So when I look at Sellers, I'm really excited for that. Drew Allar,
do you worry with a guy like him that like Josh Simon's so good that he's pulling him along with him.
Yeah, that's something I will be keeping an eye on. Like, all right, on the non-Josh Simon targets, how else?
What is he like athletically?
He looks, again, like without doing this stuff, he looks to be like a plus athlete. Like just some of the explosive runs that I saw, he looks like a guy that I'm excited to see.
So this is a guy who's physical tools out the wazoo.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, so I'm excited to do the deep dive there. You mentioned Drew Allar from Penn State. This is a guy, look, we get hung up on, sometimes with prospects, we get hung up on like, all right, the lasting image. And there was that interception late in the loss to Notre Dame where it's like, oh, that was a terrible decision. What is he thinking there? For the most part, Drew Allar's done an excellent job of taking care of the football. I actually want, to the earlier point you made, I actually want to see him push the limits more often, moving forward. Just again, in the small study that I have done with that, he's like your classic like caretaker, ball distributor, ball out fast. Now, they did not have a wide variety of weapons in that pass game. It's a run-oriented offense just based on the skill set there. Highly schemed offense. They did a lot of creative things, with that offense this past season. So like cool screen game, they're moving people around, Wildcat with Tyler Warren, Nick Singleton taking direct snaps. So they do a lot of funky stuff, which you kind of have to like throw that out with projecting him forward. But I would say like purely as a quarterback, he looks like he's got all the skills required. It's just more like I want to see him kind of push the limit and kind of shoulder the load a little bit more often. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. I have to do a little bit of a deeper dive on him before I
type-wise, what are we talking about? Hey, this is more of a pocket passer.
More pocket passer for sure. Again, kind of like low ADOT. There was a lot of like ball out fast, taking care of the ball, not going to put the ball in harm's way type of profile.
Tall Bo Nix.
Sure. Yeah. Without having I would say stylistically, yes. I feel like that's the knock or the wrap on.
Okay. Then what about Klubnik?
So Klubnik, I've done probably the least amount on this group, but he is another one. Like everybody raves about him from not just like the teammates, but multiple defensive players brought him up to me this year as like, hey, who was the toughest, like not like the most talented or like who was the toughest player you went up against this year? And Klubnik came up like 3 times with opposing defensive players this year, which I thought that was kind of interesting because you don't usually see that.
Yeah, you don't want to give pop to the quarterback
and an underclassman quarterback that wasn't in this class. Like sometimes it would be like, oh yeah, like Cam Ward, you know what I mean? Like you see, but like for an underclassman quarterback, I thought that was unusual, and everybody raves about him. So I'm excited to dive into his film. I know that there were some that are really happy with how he ascended because he was a big time recruit. Came in, took over DG Uiagalelei, at Clemson, and was like, all right, like he's going to be the next guy. And it was a little bit of a rocky start, but then this year in 2024 ascended to be kind of match that recruiting profile. So I'm excited to dive into the film there.
When you are watching guys and somebody else keeps sort of taking your attention away and popping, do you make a note of that?
Oh, always. Yeah. I mean, that's like, we talked about it when the Eagles selected Makuba, Andrew Makuba from Clemson. That was a guy I was watching other players and he popped as a true freshman. So I'm all that. As soon as that happens, like immediately, like, all right, let me add that to the sheet. Let me find his draft year, make sure that he's in the hop.
That must be such a treat to then get to, okay, now I get to sit down with this guy who I've written down like 6 times. Oh, that must be so fun.
And so, sometimes those guys turn out to be nothing. It's
right, of course. But just to open this present that you've known about.
Yes, that is very fun. And it gives me, it's like, oh man, like especially when, all right, you have, let's say it's Makuba, right? So, all right, he popped as a freshman, and then I go to the combine the next year, and like 2 of his former teammates say like, oh yeah, like we have this guy coming up. I'm like, oh yeah, he was already in my sheet. Now I'm really excited to kind of unwrap that later.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
That's fun.
Prospect gooning.
Doing film in the summer is, again, one of my favorite times.
Now, is there a guy who you have circled as like you can't wait to get to him? You're most excited about?
I'm buzzing through really fast. I mean, there are probably a handful of guys that I could say there. I would say, buzzing through these names, probably. The the safety from Purdue, Dylan Thieneman, I believe is the pronunciation there. He's going to be a true junior, so a rising junior. I did sneak him into the mock draft. He was a guy as a true freshman, was like an All-American. And I remember watching, it was crossover film. I was watching somebody in the Big Ten. I don't have it in front of me, but I was watching an offensive player in the Big Ten, and you see the safety flying around. I'm like, oh, like, who's this guy? And then the accolades come out, and I was like, oh, he got All-American as a freshman. So like, yeah, he's a guy that I'm excited to watch.
One more quarterback to talk about.
Yep.
Another guy who you have done the full dive on because there was a chance he would come out this year.
Yes.
That's Carson Beck, who transferred from Georgia to Miami, a Sean Syed favorite.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was interested to watch him because I was relatively high on Beck coming into the year, where the physical talent wasn't necessarily like awe-inspiring. Like I think that he's got a quick release. He's really tough. The accuracy really stood out. But I would say with him, it's kind of like the Quinn Ewers conversation, where it's like, okay, this is the highly schemed offense, a lot of screens, and like all right, just RPO, like get the ball out quickly. What else can you do on top of that? 2 years ago, 2023, he capitalized on a lot of those throws, where it's like, all right, let's remove the frills from the offense and say like, all right, like pure dropbacks, like how do you look? I thought he excelled. Last year, less so. Where he threw more interceptions, he took more sacks. Just like there was more like just kind of head scratching plays. Now he's transferring, goes to Miami. What is it going to look like in this new offense, in this new environment? I would say like the departure from Georgia wasn't super clean. Obviously, he also had the elbow injury at the end of the year, required surgery, so he missed this whole spring. What is that going to look like? When he comes back fully healthy. So, I would say like he didn't make it into my mock draft for a reason. My guess, my expectations are going in like this is probably more like early day 3, and we'll see if he can play his way into a higher slot than that.
Now, expecting you to predict who's going to be the next Cam Ward is a ridiculous thing because he made it was unexpected for a reason.
Yep.
But is there anybody else who was sort of on your radar as, might have the tools, or just you've been aware of them that they could make some kind of leap into round 1 conversation?
Yeah, I would say, again, without having studied those guys, 2 names that kind of stand out would be Taylon Green from Arkansas, who's going to be a redshirt senior, 6'6", 224, so a bigger kid than Cam Ward, but athletic traits, the flashes are really, really strong. I'm excited to study his film. And then another one would be Mark Gronowski at Iowa. Now, so that's the thing, is that like, what is it going to look like at Iowa? Is he going to put up big numbers? But he transferred.
Man, I loved Brad Banks back in the day.
But who didn't love what was the kid that went in the 3rd round to San Francisco? I can't even make the joke. I'm not going to land the plane here.
Connor Cook? No, that's
Michigan State. I'm not even going to bother.
Okay.
But Mark Gronowski was at South Dakota State, led them to 2 national titles at the FCS. Could have come out in this past year's class. Similar to Cam Ward, was like accepted to go to the Shrine Bowl and was like, all right, he'd probably be a day 3 guy. Transfers, and we'll see what he can make of himself here this year.
Okay. Now, 2 more guys who you've done before we get into where else this draft looks like it might be strong or weak. Both running backs. Nicholas Singleton, who you mentioned from Penn State.
Yep.
And then Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, who you liked quite a bit.
Jeremiah Love is a first-round player. So I would say this is like he's different. I was actually asked, like, how does he compare to Genty? They are different players, different like archetype of running back. Genty was your like shorter, squattier, like more of your bell cow. The knock that you will have, I think you're gonna, honestly, the only knock that I've got on Jeremiah Love coming in, he is more of like your slender, explosive slasher type. Like 4.3 speed, big play threat. Only had 1 game where he had more than 15 carries last year. So like that is going to be all right. Can he be that full-time back? Some teams won't care about that. Hey, he could be our Jahmyr Gibbs. Other teams that will matter, and that's going to affect the valuation. But Jeremiah Love's awesome. He is such a good player.
Why? What about him?
Creates yardage in basically every way imaginable. He's got the ability to kind of burst through the hole and erase angles. So safety, linebacker, like he can outrun you at the 2nd and 3rd level. But he's got wiggle. He can jump cut you. He's also got better contact balance and the ability to kind of play through tackle attempts than most guys that are 6 foot. He came in. Yeah, he's listed 6 foot 212. Like, so not the biggest guy, not super physically imposing, but like just consistently made people miss. And when I'm watching him, I'm like, who does he remind me of? He looks like Travis Etienne. I did not like Travis Etienne when he was coming out of Clemson. He in all the ways that he is, that like Travis Etienne was like weak, where it's like, I I don't know if I like him between the tackles. I don't know if I like him like creating yards for himself and playing through contact. This guy's excellent. He can pass protect. He'll play on special teams. He's a gunner on special teams as a starting running back. Like legit 4.3 speed. Again, just like checked all the boxes. Like, and then he does. He got hurt down the season finale against USC. Hurt his knee. It was like an MCL sprain. You could say like, all right, like what probably going to bow out. Gutted it out. Didn't miss a game. Now was clearly not 100% for the college football playoff. Had fewer than 10 carries in all of those games, but he's back there with Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard became the lead ball carrier. He's the fullback on these quarterback runs, and like just going like inserting and blocking linebackers, on a bum leg. I love Jeremiah.
Football guy stuff.
Yeah, I like Jeremiah Love, and he'll be a 21-year-old next year.
Like that.
Yeah, there's a lot to like with this profile.
A first-round running back. I mean, he better be awesome.
Yeah, my anticipation is that he will be one of the most productive running backs in college football this year. That's my guess.
C.J. Beathard.
Thank you. That is it. Yes, that was who I was. That's the Iowa quarterback that I was referring to earlier.
Yes. Okay. So we've talked about the quarterbacks. Obviously, you don't have a running back going number 1 overall. You have a non-quarterback going number 1 overall. Who is that?
TJ Parker is a player that, so basically what I did, I'm going through all these names. Here are the names we're talking about first round. I haven't done the deep dives on them, but before I do the mock draft, let me watch all of TJ Parker's sacks. How do they happen? He's a power rusher. He's big. He's physical. He can kind of unearth offensive tackles. His ability to just kind of put his foot in the ground and go right through their chest. That's where he wins. Now I'm excited. Like, is he a first round, like that top 5 caliber athlete? That's when I start to watch him, I'll have a better sense. But that's how he was able to get home to the quarterback last year, was a lot of power rushes.
Okay. Remind you of anybody body type wise? Trying to think of a power rusher who went 1 overall. I guess Trayvon Walker is not.
Yeah, you would say like Trayvon Walker. And that's the thing. Like, all right, like Trayvon Walker, freak athlete. Like,
long
so
arms,
you kind of need him to be that type of player. Let me see if I've got measurables. I don't have measurables on Parker yet. But I mean, again, I sampled like the 2 early mocks.
Yeah.
All right, so we went through. Dane had him at 4. Todd McShay had him at 9. Nate Tice had him at 6 on his big board. Jordan Reed had him at 9. PFF had him at 7. Rob Rank from Fox Sports had him at 4. So like, all right, like consensus top 10 type of talent. So I just kind of buzzed through. I'm like, all right, let me take a look here. And it's the power that won me over.
And then on the other side of the line of scrimmage, you have an offensive lineman going 2 overall.
Yeah. So that one would have been Caden Proctor from Alabama. I will say, like, Proctor is a guy that popped early on when he was there. True freshman starter at left tackle for Alabama. And he's another one where it's like the power and play strength really stands out. Now, I have him going higher in this mock than all of the other mocks that I sampled.
Good for you.
But it's not like since I haven't studied him, I'm not like saying like, oh yeah, I feel really good. He's going to go this high. It's just the fact like he has been popping to me on film since his freshman year, just blowing people off the ball.
Alabama offensive lineman. I mean, it's a safe bet.
Yeah, like, all right, like, so is he Evan Neal, or is he one of the other guys that we've seen go and have NFL success? But
Evan Neal went in the top 10.
He did, yes.
So
Proctor, what was interesting was after Saban left, he entered the portal, went to Iowa. So I was like, he's going to go to Iowa. He spent spring ball there. And then was like, I'm just going to go back to Alabama. Entered the portal again, went back to Alabama and played there last year.
I mean,
interesting.
Iowa's not for everybody.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's very, very true. But I will say, like, Proctor, like that Alabama offensive line was a bunch of bullies, like over the last 2 years. And he was like the biggest bully on that with Tyler Booker. That's the thing. It's like watching Booker, I was also noticing Proctor back in the fall.
How excited do you get when Bruce Feldman's freak list drops?
Oh, that's like circle the date on the calendar.
Yeah.
There have been times where he's done it in like spurts, but that's because what that does is, number one, it's great to have like some more data to put in, right? But then also it's like, what that usually means, because it usually comes out end of August. It's come out later every single year because of transfer portal. He's talked about this is like, coaches were afraid to give me names early in the summer.
That makes sense.
Because if I put it out in June, they can get poached. Yeah, so he was like, I have to put it out later now.
Interesting.
But over the last few years, that'll be like late August, and that'll come out And that's like, oh,
That's your day. It's
it's
like
Siobhan Revel. Like, who's this guy? Like, all right, I gotta watch him. And I'm like, oh, this guy's awesome. So yeah, that's always a fun day.
that's fun. That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So big picture, like strengths of the class, stuff like that. Is it too early, or are there indications that it might be good in certain areas?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, based off of these names that I'm pulling, a lot of defensive linemen. And I will say, like, a lot of these defensive linemen that I pulled were, like, interesting, like, combo, like, big edges or, like, athletic interior players, but guys that lined up and down the front. Like Peter Woods from Clemson looks awesome. He looks really, really strong, really, really athletic for an interior player. We mentioned TJ Parker, his ability to push the corner. By the way, like Clemson had like 5 guys on this mock. Like, so Clemson should be good this coming year. But then you go down the list a little bit further, and it's like Keldrick Falk from Auburn. Some people have him as an interior rusher. Some people have him as an edge. Like, he was able to win up and down the line of scrimmage. There were a couple guys, Matayo Uiagalelei from Oregon, Ruben Bain from Miami. He was another guy that had that combo skill set. Tyreek Sapp from Florida, another guy that has that combo skill set. So that was one thing that stood out, was a lot of defensive linemen again, but more importantly, guys that had that multiple, versatile skill set.
So will Terry Fontenot regret trading away his pick? I guess is the big question.
Yeah, I mean, so what's funny is, before this, I went and just like, all right, let me look at 122 early 2025 early mock draft.
Yeah.
James Pierce was the number 1 pick in that mock.
Oh,
and that's
good.
what's interesting about these mock drafts is, like,
That's what you should have done. You should have made the Falcons pick the number 1 pick.
Yeah, that's a good
That would have been good.
But yeah, I mean, my guess is he's probably going to regret that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they would think so.
But we'll see.
How about wide receivers?
A lot of names. Have not done the deep dive on any of them yet. But what was interesting is there's not like one guy, though. I would say the one guy that consistently showed up was Carnell Tate from Ohio State, which are another Ohio State guy. The bigger one,
and like the 2 best receivers in college football are going to be out in 27.
Yes, that's the thing. So Ryan Williams from Alabama and Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. But Carnell Tate consistently in all these mocks, and then it's like I'm not kidding, like 12 other guys spread across 5 different mocks. So a lot of names. I'm excited to kind of go through. I mean, there's a kid from South Carolina that's like height, weight, speed. I know I included him in the mock. Evan Stewart from Oregon. He was getting a lot of fluff last year. Had a little bit of a down year, so didn't come out. I will say, like, of the pass catchers, the guy that when I went through and I watched and I was like, oh, like this guy looks legit, is Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, who I ended up giving to the Eagles just because, like, all right, tight ends in first round are tough.
Sure.
You watch like 3 catches and you're like, this guy's got real juice. I went through and, like,
that's fun.
Seems like he checked the box as a blocker, not like a killer at the point of attack or anything. But
and wasn't their number 1, right?
Right, and that's I'm fascinated to do the deep dive on him.
Okay.
So that was a fun pass catcher.
So yeah, how do you decide like who to watch next?
It's literally
you spin a wheel. What do you got?
So because I mentioned that I do like the position by position, like the tenure contextual stuff.
Yeah.
I have finished quarterback and I have finished running back. So like literally, like if I go into my 2026 sheet now, those sheets are like ready, updated, ready to roll. So that's why those are the positions that I've studied so far. Basically, whatever positions I open up next.
So you haven't finished going through all the numbers on 25 yet?
Yes.
Was there anything that jumped? I know you tweeted about like the guys who went relative to 10 years.
Yep. Like in terms of volume standpoint,
yeah.
So like more defensive tackles went this year.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, nothing that we didn't really necessarily talk about. It's always interesting though, like. It's like wide receivers is a good one where there were a bunch of players that went at wide receiver in this class, at corner in this class, where, like we didn't talk about, there was a Micah Abraham, a corner from Tulane who went in the 6th round. It's like, I don't think I uttered the words Micah Abraham, like non-com, but it goes to show that those are positions that are just going to get drafted.
Yes.
Like if you're going to like place a bet on who are the non-combine, it's going to be at wide receiver, it's going to be a corner, it's going to be a pass rush, it's going to be a tackle.
Because you got to fill out your rosters.
Yeah. And so it's just, finding the guys. And honestly, like in this class, they weren't even like traitsy. They weren't even like productive. So it's just like, it's interesting like kind of following those profiles to see like, all right, like who were the guys that got drafted at those positions late that can kind of tell you, a story for later.
What did you make of there being more quarterbacks who went on like day 3 this year than in past years.
I think we talked about that in the lead up, that this class was not a great class for starting quarterbacks, but it was a nice class for backups.
Yeah.
That I think that played out from a number standpoint, where it's like, maybe we weren't too excited about the group that went high, but there were a lot of guys that I'm like, I could see this guy being a number 2, number 3. And I think the numbers played out that way.
Okay. Speaking of the quarterbacks, given the Derek Carr news, a player that you and I disagree on a little bit, how do you feel about the prospect of Tyler Shuck, NFL starting quarterback?
My guess is he's going to get first crack at it, right?
Imagine so.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer Rattler, got some starts for them.
They want to get Drew Arch Manning, don't they?
Yeah, well, that's but that's to me, like trying to say, because people have said that when I know there were reports after the Rams traded with Fontenot to pick up that future first round pick for the Falcons. They're like, Les Snead's playing for Arch Manning. No, I don't think anybody is like putting all their eggs in the Arch Manning basket just because they know the likelihood that he is to go back for 2026.
Okay. What else do you need to do for this? I mean, we're just like, it's like I'm interviewing you about the marathon that you're running like 100 feet in. Yeah.
I'm going to be taking in all right, what are ways we can make the draft guide better for next year, the Die Hard draft guide. Yeah. So I'm having those conversations, honestly, starting this week. I've got my ideas on like how can we expand that. So that'll be fun.
Okay. Anything you can tease?
It's like honestly, it's like the little things. Like I'll probably expand a little bit more bio info on players. Maybe make
just
it a little bit easier to
sooner,
find through.
right?
Yeah, that's the big thing.
So that's the thing. If you are a diehard, which you can become on allphly.com, you get access to this living, breathing document.
That's
all year long.
It's going to be available by the time the season starts. Like last year that it was. I think we rolled it out. I'm pretty sure we hit publish when I was flying from Shrine Bowl to Senior Bowl. That thing will be available before the first college football game this year.
So how much movement do you usually see from how you think of a guy, the summer study versus then revisiting what he's done in that last year?
I would say, so every year I have this, I don't think Greg would mind. I have this conversation with Greg every year because Greg Cosell will usually watch a lot of film in the summer, and then we'll pick back up as soon as the college or the NFL season ends. Because as we know, he watches all 32 teams every single week, so he's got a lot of teams that he's got to watch during the season. But he gets a lot of work done in the summer, and we have this conversation every year where it's like, do you think a lot of guys get better? And it's like, yeah, like maybe 5%, 10%. Like there are going to be changes. Like guys are going to get subtly better. Sure. There are little things like, Mykel Williams, he got better at, with his hands at the top of the rush. That to me took him from like what I would envision to be like a top 30, top 35, top 40 type player to like, oh yeah, like I'm comfortable taking this guy in the top 15. Like that. So you see that for a player that's up high, like those margins mean a lot.
Well, and you also want to see, it's not even that, okay, now he can use his hands. It's that, okay, he took the time to improve something about his game.
No question.
You can bet on that trait that this is a guy who's going to work to improve himself.
Right. But like, if I'm watching a guy and it's like, yeah, like he's not going to get a lot more power. Like I'm not expecting when I turn on TJ Parker in the fall where it's like, oh, like he's not a power rusher anymore. You kind of get the book on what the player is. It's just a matter of like, all right, like, how did he perform in his final season? What are the areas where he did get better? You kind of get the bones of the evaluation are done.
Luther Burden comes to mind for me for this conversation because you loved him last summer, but he did have this drop in production his junior year. And so how do you explain that away? Those are the kinds of evaluations.
No question. And so, I'm going to do, honestly, I will do another mock draft in like late August, like right before the season starts. That mock draft will be much more informative than the one I did the one I did last week or the week before, because now it'll be rooted in film study. And I'm hoping that a lot of the guys that I put in that mock draft, that should be more, that should be closer to what we can expect to see as we get through into January, February, and on. Obviously, there'll be a lot of data that will be accumulated before that point. But to me, like there won't be a player in that mock draft that will go undrafted, barring like medical or like character, something like that.
Who was the earliest guy drafted this year who you hadn't done?
That I had like nothing on?
Yeah.
I want to say it was like round 5 that it happened, where it was like, I couldn't, where we were on our draft show and like his name goes across the ticker. And I'm like, I probably couldn't tell you. Now, there were guys where it was like, hey, like, when the Bears took Ruben Hippolyte, the linebacker from Maryland, in the
Great
fourth
name.
round, he was not in the diehard draft guide, and of course, had to be an all-city team that made that selection. But I could say
you
like,
had eyes on him.
yeah, I would be like, all right, well, hey, like, I know, like, he wasn't in the guide because basically, like, anyone I talked about was like, yeah, he's not going to get drafted. He's only being talked about because he ran fast at the pro day, and so like, but he went in the fourth round.
And who drafted? Oh, yeah,
The Bears, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and after like the day after the draft, like on that Monday, he was one of the first players I watched just to do my write up for all CHGO, and like yeah, I'm like, yeah, like, didn't love his tape.
Okay. How about this show? How do we make this show better?
I mean, I think that the fact that we will start it, we've been doing so, and we'll have more details to come.
We don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that, the iteration of this show will take shape much sooner in the process than what we saw last year.
That's the cliffhanger. That's
right. Yeah.
what happens here.
Anyone that watches the PHLY Eagles show knows that you don't believe that shows should have a season 2.
That's not true. I believe that the shows should go on. The writers need to work. We need like all the people behind the scenes. We need to keep the people employed.
Right.
It's good for the business.
Okay.
I just lose interest after season 1. So maybe I'll stop watching.
So let me ask you. There's I talked last week on the Eagle show about Andor.
People love Andor.
Andor's excellent. So let me take. I'm gonna give
Can
you
I start Andor in season 2? Do I need to watch season 1?
I think you should probably watch season 1.
Okay.
Yeah, because it lays the groundwork for you.
Okay.
What's interesting about this? So when the writer, I'm a big believer in like, all right, like the writers, like let whatever they think the story is, like let the writers make the call on how long that should play
100%.
out. Right. So most times
but it's hard to turn off the money hose.
Yeah, and most times what you see is like, hey, we think we have a three season arc, but then people are like, oh, can we make it 5? Can we make it 7?
Right.
That kind of thing. With Andor, so season 1 came out and it was like everyone really liked season 1, but the ratings were just okay. The ratings weren't not as high as some of the other shows on Disney. So while they said we have a 5-season arc, Disney was like, yeah, can you make it into 2 seasons? Like, can we make this season the final season?
Yeah, that's way better because you got to tell your story.
So so basically what they did is they did the same thing in season 1, but it was like they release it in chunks where it's like 3 episode arcs at a time. So like, all right, it's
and tonight is the finale, I've heard, right?
It's like a 2 or 3 episode finale, but all the other each week it's been 3 episodes at a time, and it's almost like, hey, it's like a movie being released each week. 2.5 to 3 hours of story each week. Each of these arcs would have been an entire season.
Okay.
So it's interesting when you look at it from that standpoint.
So they've reinvented the movie. Have you heard about movies?
Right. Right. Now, there are times where I'm watching and I'm like, man, like this, the last week's arc was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the best episodes of TV I've watched in the last calendar year. I couldn't help but think like, man, like what if this arc was an entire season? Like there's like certain like storylines where I'm like, man, like I wish we could have seen a little bit more here had they been able to expand. Like what that. I'm not complaining because it has been phenomenal.
The thing is everybody needs an editor.
Yeah.
And as a show that we do a show every single day, sometimes less is more. You got to cut the stuff. You got to make what would be a longer story, a shorter, tighter story. Like sometimes that's in best service of the story.
I agree. That's why I was interested to kind of get your thoughts on just knowing what the background was and they couldn't have known because of when the story when it got produced and everything, like how topical.
Yeah,
it would be.
that's what I've heard.
It's excellent. It's so good.
Okay. How do you balance, catching up on your pop culture versus catching up on all these guys?
So a lot of the data entry stuff, that's easy. Like, all right, like I can sit here literally like with the laptop, sit and watch and have like I finished up Yellowstone on Friday, which was terrible. And like Andor, laptop shut. I'm watching.
Sure.
It depends on the show. Like Last of Us, I think I've had it open for some and not for others, just depending on the episode. Severance was like, oh no, like that's laptop closed for that. But yeah.
How did Severance deliver for you?
That landed. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought I was.
Do I
I
need
was
to
happy.
watch it?
Yeah. I thought it was really good. Especially I think you need to watch it. I would strongly
So
recommend.
slow. It's like
I mean, you're up with the baby, like it's 2 a.m. Like,
well, yeah, but it's a show I need to pay attention to. It's not a show I can like half fall asleep to.
yeah, I guess
Right?
that's true. Yeah,
Meanwhile, The Pit has
true.
been great. As
Yeah, I have to- I know,
as
that's
a,
why I have to-
as a 2 a.m. with the baby on my chest.
I haven't done The Pit yet.
It's been very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Not like the best TV I've ever watched, but
Right.
just, nice little shot of adrenaline.
Yeah, I've been trying to decide.
And Noah
what I'm
Wiley's
gonna do next.
fantastic.
I ended up because I started watching The Boys last year. That was one of my off-season
Okay.
shows. It's fine. Like it's good. It's not great. But I reached a point because they did a spin-off show. And so like it was like, oh yeah, you want to watch the spin-off because it like informs that what's going to happen in season 5. So I started watching that last night. It's okay. So that's a laptop.
And or
open
do you
show.
need to be a Star Wars guy?
No,
You can be
not at
completely
all.
devoid,
You can be
divorced from the entire world.
some context helps, but you get the gist. Like,
Okay.
there's no lightsabers. There's no like, talk about like the Force and like stuff like that. It's very, yeah, it's good.
I mean, I don't mind some Force, but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's good.
What when in the chronology of the Star Wars story does it take place?
So there's a movie that came out a few years ago, Rogue One,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
that leads you right into the original trilogy.
Got it.
This show is about like the main character in the show, or I should say like one of the main characters in the show was one of the main characters in that movie and is like
Got
a
it.
leader of like the rebels. So it's basically, it takes you through like the creation and the formulation of the rebellion and motivations behind that.
Okay. People are very excited about the skin that you're showing on this episode.
I figured, look, we have a 4-person show coming up in an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew we were going to be in here. That's a wider shot. We're not behind the desk. Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's that time of year.
All right. Any final thoughts on putting a bow on the 2025 draft class? What will be your fondest memories of this year's version?
Covering it with you guys, that I would say that it'll be special in that way.
What a tour de force you were during draft weekend.
I
know you don't want to be gassed up.
I don't
right
want to
now,
be
but
gassed
it's
up, yeah.
Unbelievable. And to me, it is such a perfect example of like the advice you want to give somebody in the beginning of their career or whatever is like do the job that you want to do, not the job that you have. And you have been doing this job for like a decade.
Yep.
It's just now that you're getting to show that you're doing the job. And so you like to say you hit the ground running is such an understatement. Like you were unbelievable.
Thank you. Last time I will allow you to gas me up in that way.
That's fine.
But thank you. No, it was so that's when you asked me like, oh, what is going to stand out about 2025? It will be that primarily. Then after that, yeah, like lackluster class at the top, good players in every draft. Couch it with that, and I'm a big believer in that. Because I feel like every year we say like, oh, it's not a great class. Well, this year was just a lesser class, but it's up to the teams to find where the talent is.
Okay.
And I do think they were talented players. They were flawed, but they were talented.
I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
Anybody around the league, team-wise, that like you didn't do for All City that you thought came out with a good draft?
I mean, Seattle was one that definitely stood out. I know Shield, he posted about that on social. Like as the draft was going on, I was like, Seattle's going to have, because just looking at their class. Let me pull it up really fast. Shield Kapadia.
Oh, okay.
From The Ringer. So they took Gray Zabel, who
Your boy.
who
you invented, right?
And who Sam Monson had reached out from the 33rd team. They did a thing where it was like, oh, we're asking every draft analyst who their favorite player is in the draft. So I'm like, oh, who's my favorite player? And I'm like, all right, I'm going through it. I'm like, you know what? It might be Gray Zabel.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Zabel was my favorite player in the draft. Then they took Imanwari.
Your second favorite player in the draft.
Who was up there. He's definitely up there. Then they took Elijah Arroyo.
Oh, wow.
They took Jalen Milroe, who I had in my top 50. Then they took Riley Mills. Torrey Horton was a great vet. He was a top 100 player for me. So then they took Damian Martinez, who talent. He should have gone later. I mean, and then they took your boy Ricky White.
Guy Ricky White. What a class!
Seahawks had a very strong class, in my opinion. So, yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. I guess that's all we got.
I think that's all we got. Do we have to do like? Are you doing overtime? Do we hang out for 4 more minutes?
Julia says no.
No. All right.
We're good. All right.
Let's do it.
Well, thanks to everybody who watched throughout the entire draft season on the PHLY Draft Show with Fran Duffy. Thank you to Julia for making it happen. Most of all, thank you to Fran for teaching us throughout this time. Stay tuned. Who knows what we will come back with? But for now, 11 shot. It was Tyler Shuck.
So this is the cliffhanger.
This is the cliffhanger. I might die.
Stay tuned for season 2, maybe, of the PHLY Draft Show.
Close it.
We all silly like the mayor.